This episode of the Two Dads Podcast is powered by the Salina Moose Lodge 1473. And listen up, folks, dock bids are open for moose stock. You heard that right. One of the best parties in town, moose stock, taking place Sunday, August 31st. If you want to pull your boat right up to the party, and I mean right up to the party, dock spaces are available for Sunday only and are up for bid now at the lodge. To enter, very simple. Head over to the Salina Moose Lodge 1473. Grab a slip at the bar. Write your name, phone number, moose ID, and desired dock number. Bids must be received by August 1st, 2025, and all dock money must be paid in full by August 17th. No tying up allowed this year unless you have a confirmed dock. No exceptions, says Brooke. But regardless if you're coming by boat or by vehicle, swimming, we don't care. There's a lot of live music at the lodge. Brothers-in-Law takes the stage Thursday, July 10th at 7 p.m. Donna Kennedy and the Heartbreakers take the stage Friday, July 11th at 7 p.m. On Saturday, July 12th at 3 p.m., it's Cheerful Drifter, and then after, Supervillain takes the stage at 7:30 p.m., and we're winding down the weekend with limited time on Sunday, July 13th at 4 p.m. Also, don't forget to mark your calendars. The Buckeye Memorial Golf Tournament is upcoming on Saturday, July 19th at 1 p.m. Northmore hosts the Memorial Tournament. Sign up your team there at Northmore. Whole sponsors are available for $25, $50, or $100 respectively, and all proceeds go toward the Jim Monroe Memorial Scholarship Fund. You can reach out to Jeff Snedden or Alicia Ball to sponsor a hole or get involved. Remember, if you want to be a part of something special, something unique, and something fun, join the Salina Moose Lodge today. Hello, and welcome to the Two Dads Podcast, episode number 21. What's up, Slick Willie to my left?
Hey, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. You know, somebody pointed out to me the other day on the YouTube that you mouth the beginning, hello and welcome to the Two Dads Podcast. I didn't notice that.
It started about 3 or 4 episodes, but yeah, you've been over there getting into it, and I'm just like, whoa. And I just mouth everything while I'm kind of mocking you.
My buddy Drew said something about that, and I've been watching the episodes back, so it's very funny. We actually have a special guest, so we've got something new today, okay? We like to change the format, call it ADD, call it what you will, call it just keeping it fresh. I don't know, but you know, Bill and I are really excited here. We've got Brandon Fuss-Cheatham here. Brandon, how are you today? He's actually out here first. We've never done this before, so we're kind of, he said, when I come on the podcast, I want to riff. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, that's want to chat.
So when he came on, we said, all right, normally we do our little span about, you know, what's going on with the truck updates, but the tech updates. You know, we didn't have a super eventful thing. We were at the state park in St. Mary's, and that was cool. But nothing too crazy. So I wanted to change the format up a little bit, get our guests out here earlier, just try new things. You know, we got 20 episodes down, Bill. 21, you're trying to get 1% better every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get there. 100 episodes on deck.
So I'm really excited to have Brandon on for a couple reasons. And number one being, we're getting into merch. We're looking at merch right now. Merch is going to be a really important part of the Two Dads culture. It's going to be part of the Two Dads brand. We want to be able to connect with you guys in different ways. But also, Brandon and I have a huge history together. When we talk about the influencers like Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, Travis Kelce, and all the brands we worked on, Bill, Brandon was the one that was really doing the company. It's really his company, right? Like I kind of got the luxury of working for somebody else footing the bill, which is always nice, right?
You're just the blonde-haired weirdo on the side.
I got to test things and test different features. So Brandon's coming here today. He was a former point guard at Ohio State. We'll get into that. He ran a T-shirt store in Columbus, so he knows all about merch called Lamp Apparel. And then that blew up to one of the first and earliest influencer brands that was pioneered, Maverick by Logan Paul. I'm sure most of you know who that is, Jake Paul, Logan Paul.
Never heard of her.
Yeah, okay. And anyway, he's got a lot of advice for us. So, Brandon, thanks for coming on, man. First of all, we took you around Salina today. Say a few things about that. How was your time in Salina so far? First time here, right?
First time. It was actually amazing. I just moved to a small town in Zanesville, and Salina reminded me of that small town vibe. So we got to go hit up some of the spots. What was it? Willoughby?
No, the Willow.
The Willow.
Yeah, that was fair. Yeah. I can see that. We went to the Willow. And
Amazing.
What else did we do? We went to the boardwalk area. I showed him some of the projects that we're working on up there. And
we went to the Huff Park.
Huffy's Pond. We swam in a pond today.
Huffy's Pond, nice.
We were swimming with the fishes.
Yeah, dude.
And they were nibbling. They were nibbling our feet. One hit my nipple today.
They really
were biting a little bit, but it was amazing.
Some people pay for that little treatment at a spa, right? You soak your feet and the fish just nibble all your dead skin away. So
it was everything I dreamed of, but Salina's been great. Awesome.
What'd you think of the Willow? We had Logan Smith on here, episode 8. No, that was Allie Cubs. I can't remember. 7 or 6?
He was before 5 or 6.
5 or 6, okay. We had Logan Smith. He's 18 years old, bought the Willow, the 1951 hamburger joint. What'd you think of it? You got the Willow. Bro, first of all, Brandon goes...
I ordered everything.
Yeah.
Everything on the menu almost.
Literally. Brandon's a foodie, right? He's a food connoisseur. Anyway, we'd like to take our guests around town, especially if they come in and travel. He's staying with me at my house. And anyway, I was like, all right, I'll get your food. He goes, no, I'm going to get a lot. And yeah, he damn near got everything on the menu. What was your favorite? You got the Willow Whopper. You got the Big Fritz. You got 20 nuggets, some fries, a cold root beer, some corn dogs.
I would say the Fritz was amazing. Yeah. I would say also the Whopper was really good because that was my first bite. But the Fritz hit it off. And I would say the chicken nuggets was amazing.
The chicken nuggets do slap there. I mean,
bro, 20 nuggets for $7.50 blows your mind. Unbelievable. Kids went crazy. Fries were amazing with the vinegar.
Wendy's could never.
No.
Especially because it closed down.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, we definitely... Yeah,
I think I saw the old Wendy's that's abandoned.
It's abandoned for... Actually, the people that were probably shooting up when they worked there are probably just sleeping there. You know, it's probably more staff now than it was back in the day. Well, we have a lot of questions for you, Brandon. Obviously, Bill, you brought this up. I want to kick this over to you. So, Slick Willie is Bill to your left, and for those that are listening, if you're new here, that's the nickname. I'm OG Pickle. We'll get into those stories here shortly. But you've been bringing it up lately. You and Rob have been talking. You've been telling us about merch. You said hey, we really want to get into merch. You want to look at your options. You want to incorporate this in the brand. You have a passion for hats. You have a passion for T-shirts, and as do I do. And so what brought up this merch concept? Why did you want to add this to Two Dads? I'm super in favor of it, and Brandon's going to answer a lot of questions we have. But how did this kind of come about? And what were you feeling when you and Rob were kind of conceptualizing this?
So Rob will cry every day he doesn't have some sort of merch from all his buddies' companies. So he's just really trying to support. So he'll wear Caddy stuff for Lee all the time. He'll wear Two Dads stuff as much as we allow him to. So when he found out that we had the Two Dads shirts for the workers, the red ones, and then he worked, he's like, "Where's my shirt?" I'm like, "It's at Mitch's house. We'll get you one. Sorry, we haven't." He's like, "I'm not working again until I get a shirt." So he was just a hard stance. He wants merch. He's like, "Why wouldn't you let me walk around and tell everybody how great Two Dads is? Why wouldn't you? I'll wear a hat every day. Just get me a hat and I'll be a walking billboard." Smart. And it's true. It's it's a small cost marketing expense, but if you can get the brand behind it and people excited to buy it, we talk about incorporating it into, a loyalty rewards program type thing. Hey, you come over, you buy so many sandwiches, you can unlock a free hat, limited drops, you wear your hat, maybe you get a discount on the sandwich, etc. I think it's just really exciting because I think the growth is starting to get to that point where people would actually be interested. We dropped the "Hey, how are you" shirts, and people put the vote up, and it was 85% of people said they would. AJ Mass, I'm still looking at you for saying no to my own shirt.
Yeah, he did say no. What the hell? And Jace Holman, I saw you.
Yeah.
We remember this shit. I'll toss it to... We got receipts over
here. But
you
said it. You're like, I'd rather them be honest.
I would...
I'm glad that they said, no, I'm not going to wear that.
Yeah. So I guess you this. Brandon, you come from merch. First of all, before we jump into your backstory, just hearing all that, what do you think about merch in general as a part of a brand?
I think it's amazing. The main thing with merch, though, is you have to build that audience first. A lot of people, when they want to start something, what they do is they just immediately want to say, "I got merch." The first thing you have to do is you got to build the audience. You have to build that following of people that are interested in you. And then once you build enough momentum, then you can incorporate the merch. So I think you guys are probably doing it right, where you guys have a bunch of episodes. You guys got the food stuff. I mean, you guys have built a great brand so far, and you didn't do the merch first because people get excited. That's what they want to do. Oh, they made it because they got merch. No. You made it when you get the following, and then you give the reward of the merch next. You don't do it first. So I think you guys are doing the right thing.
Let me ask you this. Okay. We'll jump back in and go full circle on merch here. That's going to be a heavy topic of this podcast. So if you're not interested in T-shirts, hats, and hoodies, probably not the episode for you. We had a great episode with episode 20 was great. 19, they're all great. You can check out an entire catalog of Two Dad stuff because we talk about merch today. So take us way back because listeners, obviously, they probably appreciate that you came to Salina. You kind of localized yourself for a little bit. Welcome to Mercer County. We've got ourselves some beverages. You love the lake. He said nothing but complimentary things, and thank you for that. Talk to me about sort of your upbringing. You went to Ohio State. I think a lot of people will care about that. You're wearing a Buckeyes hat.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us about your time at Ohio State just briefly because I want to kick that over to merchandising after that. But just give us a little bit of your background.
Well, my background is I'm from Pittsburgh. I was a basketball player, so I got recruited to play at Ohio State. I was Mr. Basketball. I was Gatorade Player of the Year in 2000.
Dang.
So I was recruited to go basically anywhere I wanted to go. And so when I took my visit, actually the funny story about my visit to Ohio State is I went to a football game on my visit. And for some reason, I just didn't understand the whole concept of Michigan, Ohio State. I wore a blue and yellow striped shirt to the game. They absolutely demolished me.
They probably thought you were making a statement.
What are you doing? I'm like, bro, this is my favorite polo shirt. I was gaming everything in that shirt. And they were like, dude, you're at Ohio State. Do you understand? I was like, no, I at that time, I did not understand the Michigan rivalry. So that was my first experience with Ohio State. And then I signed with them. But so I played basketball there. I started over 50 games there. Had some great wins, had some great coaches, had some great teammates.
You were Thad Matta's first year, right?
Yeah, so I was a senior under Thad. So that year, Thad was amazing. I mean, I can't even express my gratitude towards. He revived my love of basketball. But yeah, so I was Thad's first year, and that was an amazing experience. Even though we were on probation that year. But my time at Ohio State was unbelievable. Just the networking, the teammates, just traveling, being able to play at that level. There was a lot of up and downs, injuries, but my time there I would never take back. So it was a great time at Ohio State.
We were talking about J.J. Sullinger and Terrence Dials.
Yeah.
You know, they go to the Moose quite a bit for like that Buckeye poker run. So shout out to Salina Moose Lodge 14.
I think you sent me a picture of them at one time. Actually, I was just with Terrence and JJ about 2 weeks ago. We had a vet camp, so all the guys came back to mentor all the current players. So D'Angelo Russell, all these NBA guys were coming back, and we all got together. So it was good to see those guys. And
did you see Cups? Cups that just transferred in?
Yeah, Cups.
Allie Cups, his sister, was on the podcast, episode
really?
number 8.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so this is going full circle.
Great player. I remember watching him as a kid when he was playing with Bronny and that, and I was able to watch them scrimmage, and I think he's going to be a solid player for him.
That's crazy, yeah. She was on the podcast from MVP Dairy, and she talked about her dad and everything that he did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so he's a state champion basketball coach and stuff like that. So they played together, won a state championship together. So you can imagine, like, you know, Riker just said baseball. So in 11 years, if he could win a state title and I was coaching, it'd be incredible. Yeah. But so you talk about Ohio State. So you grew up in Pittsburgh. So like for college, you grew up. What was your school? Was it Pitt? Was it Penn State?
Pitt.
It was
no,
Pitt?
It was Pitt, and then it was Penn State football.
Okay.
So Pitt basketball and then Penn State football. That was my teams growing up. I loved Notre Dame. I loved Ohio State. But growing up in Pittsburgh, you're just always around Pitt. So Pitt was the main for basketball, and then Penn State football was just unbelievable at the time.
So growing up was like Pitt like your dream school, even though, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a good school, but it's not a powerhouse in basketball, right? So like, how'd you end up at Ohio State, I would say, from being from Pittsburgh? I know it's not far, but you probably had a lot of like ACC, Big East looks. Or
Yeah. I mean, I narrowed it down. So I was going to go to Pitt, Ohio State, North Carolina State, Memphis, or UCLA, or Notre Dame. Those were kind of my group that I was going to go to.
You really had a pick of the litter, though.
I really was. Honestly, I was about to sign with Notre Dame. And the day before I was going to sign, another kid signed with them that was the point guard. So then the next day, it was kind of like a domino effect. I went right to Ohio State. So I was a big Scooney Penn fan. They ran a great offense, a lot of pick and roll. And that seemed to be my game. So as soon as I wasn't able to go to Notre Dame, I was, boom, immediately Ohio State.
So Notre Dame, that's obviously a big school. My dad was a diehard UCLA basketball fan, so I grew up watching UCLA all the time. I'm a Maryland fan. Don't hold it against me. So like Aaron Aflalo, Luke Richard, and Bob Mute, obviously Darren Collison, all those guys. So that's huge. That's cool though. I mean, and it's funny. Like I got recruited for baseball, NAIA, not D1, not a powerhouse, but. It's funny how much coaches will pressure you into those signings, saying, "Hey, the next point guard is between you two. Next one to sign gets it," and like you're out. You don't take it. So it's funny to hear you say, "Hey, I was going to go here." The guy signs a day earlier. If you would have signed, it would have been a totally different story.
Totally different story. So yeah, I mean, I would have loved to gone to UCLA too. They recruited me hard. It was just so far away, but their recruiting tactics were great. They had like pictures of me up on their billboard or in their center thing of the court. They were really good at that recruiting. But I was just like, man, that's just so far away. So I narrowed it down, and I was going to go to NC State, which my high school coach's son was the coach down there, Sean Miller, who's now at Texas, but he was a Xavier. So I came from just a big basketball family. my high school coach, my dad, they were just super involved. But I just decided Ohio State was the right fit for me. It was 3.5 hours away. I would never take it back. It was an amazing experience. And, I had the time of my life. And since then, it's been probably the best thing that I've had was that Ohio State connection and being an alumni there. So I would never take it back. I mean, Ohio State has been great to me.
Before we jump out of Ohio State, though, you had a big win that listeners would probably be interested in. You guys beat number 1 Illinois, D. Brown, Illinois.
Yeah.
He had a couple big players on the
Matt
team.
Sylvester, baby.
Matt Sylvester.
I got some stories, too. So that was definitely the highlight of my career. It was senior night for me. So it was my last game in the shot. Unbelievable experience. I have 2 stories about that, though. The night before, so Matt Sylvester was one of my best friends. He was the best man at my wedding. He was my roommate basically all through college. Anytime we went, stayed in a hotel, he was my roommate. So the night before, we're sitting there, we're just, fantasizing. Hey, we're about to play the number 1 team. Imagine what if. And I remember him sitting there saying, imagine if I had the best game of my life. What if I scored 25 points? And I just remember sitting there being like, and imagine if I had the assist. The exact thing happened. He had 25 points, and I had the assist. It was, you can't even make that up. We were sitting in that room, eating, just fantasizing about beating number 1 Illinois. They had an unbelievable team, too. Second story is, this is a funny one. So we called the timeout right before we run that play for the game winner. And we're all sitting there, and Thad's having his meeting with the coaches. We're all sitting there. He comes in and says, you guys want to go for 2 or go for the win? And we're just like, go for the win. We had nothing to lose. We had nothing. We had a good team. We had 20-plus wins that year, but we weren't going to go to the NCAA because of the probation. We're like, we're going for the win. We're just going absolutely bonkers. He's like, hold on, guys. We actually have to run a play now. So he draws up the play. And at the last second, he's like, all right, you guys good? And we're like, break. And I go back for 1 second later. I'm like, so coach, who am I passing the ball to? And he's like, dude, we just drew up the whole team's looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I'm just making sure that I'm passing it to the right guy. He's like, Matt Sylvester, we're going to run a pin down, all this okay. But it's just one of those stories where even today, Thad will tell that story where it's like, dude, I remember when you came back to me, we set up the play of the century. And you're up here asking, who am I passing it to? I was like, coach, I'm just trying to double check. But the guys just rag on me so hard as if I didn't know the play. I knew the play. I was just making sure.
It's good to know. It's good to know that you...
And at the time, it was like, are you serious right now? You don't know who you're passing to.
Yeah, you sound...
No, I know what I'm passing to. I'm just double checking.
It still sounds a little insane after the fact, but, we give you a pardon on that. You obviously hit the shot. You guys won. It was a crazy celebration. I remember you running around the court and stuff. Seeing Thad get excited.
Where'd you go after?
Oh my gosh, I'm still living on that.
That's where you really. That's where the story I want.
It was. I think we probably went to Gasworks and Brothers and ordered 100 shots for sure. We went absolutely bonkers. We lived on that still living on that shot everywhere we go. Matt Sylvester is still the king. He still gets all the drinks. So we've been still living on that shot ever since then. But I remember that night and the week after that, it was just. How about let's just say I just can't say it on here, but it was one of those, it was just one of those weeks where you just debauchery, just scary amounts of things were going on.
Well, we're not all successful D1 athletes, so we're going to imagine what that was like.
Yeah.
You can imagine.
I have access to the internet. That's important.
Yeah.
So I think the $1 million question for me, transitioning, congratulations, it's an awesome career. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. You feel like you've made peace with your college career. You've obviously had some accolades. Why start a T-shirt shop after college? I know you did a few more things with, different basketball companies, but relatively speaking, your first big landing spot was a company that you designed when you were kind of out in California. You conceptualized it called Lamp Apparel. Tell us about why a T-shirt shop after college.
Well, I moved to LA, so I was in Orange County area, and out there, all they wore was ripped up jeans and T-shirts. So my vibe was, baggy jeans, and you were wearing polos. You know what I'm saying? So at the time, my whole entire vibe changed when I moved to LA, where everything was just a T-shirt. And I just start making up T-shirts. So I had this book, which was probably 4 inches thick, and every night I would just write T-shirt ideas. So everything, for whatever reason, became a T-shirt idea. So something would happen, I'd be like, bro, that's a T-shirt. That was a T-shirt. So at the time, I started it, and it was going to be called Green Tea Supply Company.
It's a great shot, though.
And so, it was a great idea, but then going through the whole trademarking process, you just couldn't get it. So when I moved back from LA to Columbus, I had this idea, and I just was like, I feel like I just need to express myself. I just didn't know how to express myself. I couldn't sing, I couldn't rap, I couldn't do, any of the things that you could express your creativity. But I was always that guy that made up names, like, nicknames for OG Pickle or my friends, Jigga, whatever it was. We were always making up names, and it just was a T-shirt. So then one day I said, I really want to do this. So I met up with one of my buddies. He was able to sponsor it and support it, and it just started off just with like a couple T-shirts. And then from there, it just kind of really took off. And the network from Ohio State was the big thing, because I could make a T-shirt and I could give it to an NBA player. I could give it to a Solinger or his brother or Evan Turner or Greg Oden, Mike Conley. NFL guys were coming in, and it was just, I had a network that I built that when I made a T-shirt, I could push it out to the athletes to start. And then that was the beginning of just being able to be creative. And then we were able to figure out processes. So when I started my whole merch company, you don't realize what inventory is. So when you have an idea, I can't just throw it out there. I immediately learned that I make a T-shirt, I have to print a certain amount. Let's say it's 12 per size and there's 5 sizes. If I don't sell through that, or if I just sell, say, all my mediums and larges, I still had to make a whole run. So within the first 3 months, you're like, all these ideas I have, I can't bring it to life because I'm just getting eaten alive by inventory costs. And then we were able to find a DTG process, which is print to order, where I can just come up with ideas, and then the T-shirts were on the site. And then when someone would order that shirt, you were able to just print it on demand. And that became the breakthrough. So once that happened, I was able to really create some great ideas that I had that I couldn't do. And then from there, the ideas just kept flowing. And then it just took a couple hits. A couple guys were wearing it. They were on TV. They were doing press conferences. And then the internet, YouTube, all that started to hit. And then I think it was just right time when we started to do it. We were that alternative. We took risk. We were saying swear words on the shirt a little bit. We weren't just that vintage shirt that everyone was wearing. We were vintage looking, but the slogans were edgy, and that's where we just really started to hit. And it was that Ohio State network. I was able to get with the athletes that were much bigger than me. They started social media, and then that was like the first round, the first inning of Lamp Apparel. So it was a start from California all the way to Ohio State, and then we were able to open up a shop within the first year, and we had a couple viral moments. That whole, the one that really broke us out was the Ohio State of mine. So it was that Marcus Hall when he got kicked out of, I think it was a Michigan game, and he flicked off the entire crowd. And we were able to capitalize on that, and we had Ohio State of mine with the middle fingers as the H. And that day, I remember it was, I think it was Thanksgiving. I was at my girlfriend, who's my wife now's house, and we were sitting there, and it happened. And I remember just saying, Joe, that's a T-shirt. We got to make it now. Get it up. And we made it, and it was within that day we sold $100,000. And at the time you were able, if you sold $10,000 in a month, you were like, this is incredible. In one day we sold $100,000 worth of it, and it was the beginning of like, wow, something viral can happen. And we put it on Facebook, it blew up, and then stores started hitting us up. Hey, can we carry this? And that was really the real entry into Lamp Apparel. And then obviously when we go into the next stages, the merch game with all the influencers and YouTube and Instagram and all that. So yeah, that was incredible.
That was right around when I joined too. But part of the story, he's throwing some stuff out there. Was like, we were dabbling in social media. I still remember, and I told you this, I tell this story when I got here. This was probably 2013. You started Lamp Apparel, right? Wasn't it somewhere right around 2013, 2014?
Yep.
I came on about 2013, 2014 as well. And we were really pushing the limit of vlogs too. If you go back and go to your YouTube while you're at Two Dads Pod on YouTube, you go check out Lampin' Life vlogs. Brandon and I were doing vlogs when it was like very early, like just as like transitioning from Vine to daily vlogs. We have some early episodes, and we were getting some traction doing that too. So some of the omni-channel stuff you see from Two Dads is a direct result of the things that we were testing at Lamp Apparel while we were doing merch, because it's the same concept. Like, the merch is the way that you participate with Lamp Apparel. But people craved more because the edginess that you were doing, the concepts that you were bringing.
All the content.
Yeah, they wanted to know, like, who are the crazy guys coming up with this? You know what I mean?
Well, and also, too, I had to give a lot of credit to Pickle, because what Pickle brought to Lamp Apparel was that digital presence where I was taking pictures. So I would make a T-shirt, I would take pictures. Pickle brought in the video. So when he started with us, he was working for free. He was just saying, dude, I love this concept. Well, I met him at the gym. He's like, hey, I'm a writer. He wrote a cool article, and that's where we became friends. But what he brought to the concept was, hey, let's bring a digital presence. I can edit videos. Let's shoot videos. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was when it took the next step, when Pickle came on board, working for free, bringing incredible value to us. And that changed everything. And then now we were able to post on YouTube. Now we were getting into the Roman Atwoods of the world. We were starting to get into, what was my guy? He had the funny videos, the concepts. Man, I forget his name.
Which guy are we talking about? You talking about like on YouTube and stuff? Hank Sinatra?
No, he was from Columbus.
The T-shirt guy? The guy that
he was the black guy. Oh my gosh. It's killing me that I can't. But he was doing just crazy funny stuff, and then we just kept layering in some of those concepts of, like, we were doing our own skits. We were just documenting things. We were shooting vlogs. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, what Pickle brought to the table, was that whole digital presence that made us that brand that people wanted to follow. It wasn't just T-shirts. It was the lifestyle that we created. And I think that is what really brought us to the attention, that then we could get seen by, some of the guys that Pickle has always talked about, the Logan Pauls, the Mr. Beasts of the world, Roman Atwoods. Those, if we weren't doing that, we wouldn't have been on that level to even talk to those people. But because we were living the lifestyle that they were living, obviously at a lower level, it became, we were equals, like, because we were creating. That was the thing. That was a time of creation. And that really took Lamp Apparel where it was the lamp in life. It was more than just they make cool T-shirts. No, there's the Short North Yacht Club. That was our back room where we were partying. We were taking videos of just silly skits. That stuff there was the brand building that took us to the next level, to be seen by other people, and then being able to then level up to where we, I'm sure you're going to get into it, where we started creating some of these massive brands, because we created a brand that other people respected and enjoyed. And then they could look back on that and say, oh, those guys are doing it right. We can then level up with them, or we can partner with them to then grow our brands. And it just became like this collaborative thing where Lamp Apparel became a collaborative brand, and then it started to build other brands.
Yeah, we're seeing that in town now. Bill brought it up last podcast episode. He kind of was like, we had messaged each other, like it was just like a FaceTime or something. And you were like, I'm looking at these other brands and I feel like they're stepping up. And it's a cause and effect. It's like when you start to do these inclusive, like, this is our brand, this is how we're going to run it. People respect it. They also want to emulate it. Like, we emulated the guy that you can't remember, obviously, but we're trying to better people to create this culture that people can connect with the restaurant better. They can connect with your sewing company. They can connect with your T-shirt store. They can connect with your boutique, your hair salon, like all these things in town. So it's exciting. And I want to jump into this next. Before I do, real quick, everyone always asks me, where do I get the OG Pickle nickname? I'll tell you real quick. When Brandon and I worked together at Lamp Apparel, this is now that you have background, he would call me Pickle, okay? And he'd be, hey, Pickle, what's up? Can you go film a video? Blah, blah, blah. Then we started getting a little bit bigger. We started hiring some people, store managers. Brandon got to, shift out of the truck like I am. He shifted out of the store. We had other people. He kept calling them Pickle. And I said, well, Brandon, you keep calling me Pickle, now they're Pickle. What's up with that? And, Brandon, he makes up funny nicknames. He's just kind of quirky. Like he said, it's always coming to him pretty quick. And he looks at me and goes, well, you'll always be the OG Pickle. And like I said, I don't know how nicknames work. It just, somebody in a hallway heard me or something. The doors of Valhalla opened and shined through. But yeah, it stuck forever. So let me ask you this. You talked about the influencer kind of transition. You have this hybrid of viral moments, viral T-shirts. You've got vlogs. You've got skits coming out. How did that start to attract influencers like Roman Atwood and Logan Paul? Tell us that story of how you sort of got your big break. You mentioned the T-shirts, that have gone viral. You made $100,000 in a day. It was amazing, but you've gone to another level. People, I'm wearing the Beast shirt. I'm wearing merch from it. So tell us about that.
So I would say Roman Atwood was the first one. So he was wearing some Lamp Apparel shirts. So I would just send him stuff. I would just ask him for his address, send it to him, pray that he would wear it. So he was doing his daily vlogs, and he was wearing some of our shirts in some of his most viral videos. He had like 100 million views on one of our videos where he pranked his girlfriend, where he acted like he cheated on her. And then she knew that the camera was there, so she threw it back to him and said, "Oh, well, I have something to tell you, and I cheated on you too." And then he flipped out, and that just became a very viral moment. And he was wearing one of our shirts, and it just completely exploded. So from there, I just kind of built a relationship with Roman where I was just sending him Lamp Apparel gear, and then I kind of twisted and said, "What if I just made you like one T-shirt that's yours, and we'll just do like a little collab?" And he did that, so he was selling merch. So that was my first introduction into the YouTube world. And then a great story is it was a Black Friday. Roman Atwood called me and said, "Hey, I got this up-and-comer Vine guy that's in town." I don't know what he was at the time, 16, 17 years old. He said, "I got this kid, Logan Paul, with me. He's in town. I don't know if you heard of him. He's a Vine guy, but he wants to shoot a Black Friday video at your store." And I said, "Great. I would love to get that attention." You know, I didn't even know technically who Logan Paul was at the time. I knew he was somebody, but I wasn't into Vine at that time. I was in the YouTube, Instagram, Facebook world, and he showed up with this kid, and I remember just sitting there. He was kind of quiet at the time, but he said, "Hey, I want to shoot a video. Can I invite some of my people? I'm just going to shoot a tweet." I'm like, "Cool, whatever you want to do, man. You can, this is your store." So he shot a tweet out, and then within an hour, there was probably 200 girls showed up to the store with a line down the block. And at that moment, it clicked. I was like, this is real. This is something that I could never create myself. I can create viral moments by timing. Like if something happened in the world or happened at Ohio State or whatever it was, I could create something and just hit the timing part. But to move the needle by a simple tweet where 200 people show up, it just clicked right there. So I remember that day I got his number, Logan Paul, and I said, "Hey, I'm just going to randomly send you shirts and stuff." He's like, "Cool, man. I'm down. It's free gear." At the time he had, it was just free. So I remember when he started to vlog, he was just wearing Lamp Apparel stuff, and it was crazy because it literally just say Lamp, and it was just like I'm getting some sales. It wasn't crazy, but I was getting some sales, and then he would wear some Ohio stuff that I would wear, or that was from Lamp Apparel, and then again I just had that aha moment of, I need to approach him with, "Hey, what if I created shirts for you? Instead of you wearing Lamp Apparel or you wearing a Nike hat or you doing whatever or wearing whatever you have, what if I just create a brand with you?" And I remember that conversation. He was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure." And then he started to vlog every day, and he was just getting so much attention, and he became the #1 vlogger because he was vlogging every day doing the craziest stuff. And I remember that day, I was just like, "Man, you need your own brand. I'm letting you know I will run it just like Lamp Apparel. I will run your social media. I will create the designs. I will print the designs. I will distribute the designs." And I remember him saying, "Hey, man, I think this is something I want to do." But then you start getting the agents involved. You start getting the lawyers involved. It just became this stretched out thing where it was just like, dude, is this ever going to happen? Like, this is 6 months of just talking. And I remember I was sitting there at night in bed at like 3 a.m, just stewing and thinking like, I need to get Logan Paul. Like in my brain, I knew I needed him. And so I remember texting him that night and said, "Bro, are you going to do this or what? Like, basically, like, what the fuck?" And he said, "Dude, I'm done with the lawyers. I'm done with the agents. Let's do it. My birthday is in 3 days. Let's do it." And I was like, done. I remember waking up the next day. I was sitting with my wife, and she was like, "So what's going to happen?" I was like, "Just, hey, one day it will all make sense. Just not today." That was one of my favorite sayings to her because she was like, what's going on with the T-shirts? How's this all going to work? I just remember that was my line to her. One day it will all make sense, just not today. And I remember that next morning I said, today's the day that it makes sense. Now, I didn't know how big it was going to get. So we had 48 hours to create his brand.
We had plenty of time.
And I remember we launched it on his birthday because he was like, "Dude, if you're going to launch," I was like, "If you're going to launch, you're going to launch on your birthday. Like, there's no bigger thing. Your vlog is popping. It's your birthday. It's April Fool's. Everything is happening." He didn't even have any merchandise. We just created a website. We brought some young kids in.
Some pickles.
Shout
Some
out
pickles.
to John Bolden.
John
Shout out
Bolden,
to,
Ethan, Ashton, Luke,
Littlefoot.
Littlefoot. I mean, it was like you needed some of those guys, and guess what? We created that brand. We launched it. He didn't even have the merch. He just showed it on his vlog. I remember sitting there in my store. He launched it, and within an hour, he sold like $50,000. I'm like, whoa. Like I felt something different. And then from there, it just kind of took off, and we just went with the Maverick brand, and it was one of those moments in time where right time, right place, right influencer. I was naive to I was a mom and pop shop. I had my wife, Joey, a guy named Andrew, and I had Scott running the thing. So there was like 4 of us. And all of a sudden, you're just swamped with, how do you print this? How do you distribute this? How do you even manage this? And then we were running social medias it was just like went from 0 to 100 within like a week. And that was just a turning point.
And that's something I think that, Mitch and I like to talk about, just knowing the growth scale, right? We talk about 1 truck to 2 truck, not Logan Paul truck level, but 1 truck to 2 truck. We talk about, do we go to a restaurant? Like, what does that look to scale? I've seen it in operations, right, where private equity says, hey, we've got to double revenue in the next 6 months. And I've seen kind of what that uptick looks like, forces people to quit. Your stars shine. They really do shine. You see who like digs in, leans in, and says, I'm here. Like, I'm here for you. Long days, long hours. It does ruin relationships sometimes because people can't handle it.
Right.
And it pushes them out, and that's just the reality of it. So you get this big deal, right? You get you land Logan Paul, you go. What was the biggest roadblock and headache for you? And especially because your girlfriend/wife at the time, right? Like, that's got to be another stress level. Like, we talk about it with business owners. How do you do it with your significant other? So like, what does that look like from your stance when you were younger like that?
Well, at the time I was married, she was a nurse, so she was working nights. So I asked her, I was like, I need you. I need you now. Like, this is the time where like I can't support this. Had guys like Pickle who worked for free. And I remember telling Pickle back in the day, the minute I make it, you're my first hire. I remember when we first did Logan Paul, I was like, dude, I need you now. This is the moment where I'm paying you now. This is the time where you're going to step up and you're going to run our social medias. You're going to be doing all the concepts with us. You're going to be help managing the team. But the number one roadblock truly at the time was cash. I didn't have enough credit to buy $100,000 at a time of merchandise. So I leaned on one of my mentors, and I had a meeting with, his name was David Hirsch, and he ran, so he's the owner of Atrium. He did all the big stuff for like Victoria's Secret. I remember a meeting with him years ago, and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, hey man, good luck. Most people fail at this. I'm just letting you know, this is not, merchandise and all this stuff and retail. It's a 99% fail. But he says, if you ever do anything, I want to meet with you once a year and let's talk about it. And then I'll help mentor you. And if things happen, great. And I remember that day when I needed $100,000, he said, great, you're gonna use my credit. So I was able to buy the merchandise through him, be able to pay him because I didn't have the credit to buy it with all of our vendors. And then he helped with the fulfillment and all that. So it was the relationships that I built earlier that allowed me to scale, because some of these things you don't even think about. Like, imagine you waking up one day and you need to buy $100,000 and you literally find the roadblock is, I don't have enough credit to buy that. With the vendors, they don't just hand you $100,000 to go buy it because you didn't establish a relationship with them. You haven't had enough history. So I literally went from 0 to 1,000 within a day. So I was able to lean on some of those mentors. I was able to lean on like an OG Pickle, where they came in and supported me. And I would never have been able to make it without the Pickles, the David Hirsches, the people that brought value to me early that didn't receive anything from me. And then when I asked them, they stepped up to the plate. It was the Boldens. It was Prestige Pro Media. These kids were like, hey, dude, I'm here to support you. Because I remember I was talking to them about doing ads and stuff for Lamp Apparel. Go ahead, Pickle. I know you got a question.
No, I think about Prestige Pro Media because those guys were the smartest kids. There were 17-year-old kids, and they would just come up to it felt like when we had this challenge, right? The credit is one thing. The fulfillment's another thing. You've kind of solved that. The other side is, how do you play ball in this digital world? And every time you bring up John Bolden, the kid, Adderall-ridden 23 out of 24 hours a day, grinding. But he would just look at us and be like, we'd be like, John, how do we you're an idiot. You just do this. Just what do you need to do? He made me feel confident every time. And he's 17 at the time. You know
Well,
what
and
I mean?
also, too, the thing that you don't realize is when you're dealing with a celebrity in California, they're on a whole different time schedule.
Yeah.
They're young. They're living life. They don't sleep. I'm getting calls and texts from Logan and team members at 3 a.m. And I just remember calling or texting Pickle or Bolden and be like, yo, we need to do this like right now. It's like, and they were on. So just having those types of people to support you, to step up to the plate, to understand the moment, not like, hey man, I'm sleeping. If at the time, if you had a wife or kids or girlfriend, whatever it was, none of that stuff got in the way. They were ready. And that's the only thing that would have made it, because these people are very demanding. Logan Paul was a perfectionist. He was demanding in a good way because he can make it rain. So when he needed something, we were there. And that was probably one of the biggest things that we were great at, was being at the speed of now. There was no, I'll do it tomorrow. Hey, I'll do it when I wake up. No, it was like, we're going to, you asked for it, we're going to do it. And when we built that trust, we built that response time with him. We were able to keep up because he's an animal. He vlogged every day. I don't think people understand. When you're vlogging every day, your life is just thinking about the next thing. And I just remember having conversations with him because of his vlog. He would need to have content. So he would say, hey, man, I want to buy a G-Wagon. Hey, I want to buy a house. How much merchandise do I need to sell to buy that? And I just remember having those crazy conversations of like, hey, man, this G-Wagon is $275,000. How many days of that? I'm like, bro, that's 3 days of merchandise sales for you, whatever your cut was. And he would be like, done. I'd be like, what does that mean? He's like, dude, I'm going to murder this plug. Always plug. That was one of the things, always plug. So he was the best marketer, plug. And in order to execute that, you had to have the team. And I had the team. I had my wife, I had Joey, I had Pickle, I had Prestige Pro Media, the Boldens of the world. I had the designers. I had people that were down for the moment, and that's what made us who we were, is because we were able to step up to the plate. We were never, there was no time. Like there was no 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. That wasn't even a thought process. It was all day, every day. And when he would ask, we would give. So we would just be like, yes, we would do that, and we did it now. And that's, I think, what took us over the hump. And we were able to keep up with him because he had content every day. I mean, you shoot a vlog every day, you're on every day, all day. And that was an experience. So like, again, I went from a mom and pop shop all the way to like, you're in the big boys. And now you're dealing with the #1 YouTuber in the world. And not only that, he was the best marketer in the world. And he was so driven. And not only driven just to be the biggest, but he was driven by money. And you learn very quickly, like, he could make the needle move just by plugging. And he was the best plugger ever. And we just had to be able to keep up. So that was probably the biggest learning experience for us, was we were on 24/7. We stepped up to the plate, and we had a whole team that understood that. There was no one on our team that was like, oh man, I'll do it tomorrow. I mean, me and Pickle, not even fought. That's not the right word.
We would fought, always, but it's not like that.
It wasn't like a real stuff, but it was like, Pickle, I need it now. And he's like, okay. I mean, he's working. He has a job. He has things in life that's going on, and he was always down. And that's why, that's why he's my guy.
Yeah. I think the other thing I want to say real quick, Bill, was shout out to Joe. A lot of people don't know this. There's 2 things I want to bring back to Two Dads before Bill launches this question. Joe, who is Joey, he is the best kept secret in the world. He's done logos for Logan Paul. He's done logos for Mr. Beast. What you see in Walmart is the same guy that does the Two Dads podcast logo and the Two Dads food truck logo and our food wrap and all the posts that you see. And the other side.
Hold on. Yeah. And he's my brother-in-law.
And it's Brandon's brother-in-law. So amazing full circle moment. But the one thing I want to say is, some of you might be sitting in the car right now. I want to have sort of a breakthrough moment just so you listen and think. Some of you might have noticed, like I had Berkey's brother, Jared. He came to the truck, and he's a very great guy. I know he's going to listen to this. He listens to the pod every week, unlike his brother Jordan, who is our sandwich expert. Very funny.
And now fired.
Well, he's back and forth. We never know. It's a soap opera.
Boom.
But I will say, Jared comes to me. he texts me. He goes, hey, man, can you text me the dates of your upcoming events? Similar to a Logan Paul. Can you text me this thing you need? Okay. I don't know where you're located, and I want to go out there a couple times with Mom before I have this thing in life I got to handle, blah, blah, blah. I said, damn, That's a really good point. We aren't telling people like a pin post of like where we're going to be, like a concert venue would. I text Joey. I said, Joe, I need you to make me a concert-looking thing that shows all these dates. I texted Bill, can you text me out the dates in a nice text format and bullets where we're going to be, when, what city? Boom. Bill handles it in the moment, which I love. This is why you and I work together. People won't know this. This is why you and I work together. We're very quick with our responses. The most I'll wait for you is an hour, like to hear back at ever.
If you do that, then he just calls. I'm like, all right, I really got to text
this is
guy
because
back.
of Brandon. You know, I'm trauma. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't say it's trauma, but we were in a very demanding environment.
But I had that post out within an hour. You see what I'm saying? It's when the idea is good, there's no reason to sit on it. There's no reason to sit there and think, why are we stretching this out 6 months? Why are we overthinking? Why am I getting approval for this? It's why I tell you all the time, just go, just do. Everything is content. Anything can be content. We don't need to wait on anything. And so as a result, again, thank you, Jared, for that hit. A lot of people have said it, but when he did it, I think it struck me, just like the Logan Paul days. That was like, get it done now. Joe, can you do this? Yes, I can right now. Boom, within an hour, we had a beautiful post and story. And so I have to give a shout out to Joe. I'm getting all the resources of the back end of all this work.
Yeah,
so.
Joe's great. And I also have that sign in my warehouse. So I have right now I have a fulfillment company. So we do fulfillment for a lot of brands. One of the big signs I have in my warehouse is speed of now. It might not be as, tight to the merchandise side, because now it's more fulfillment, it's more operations, it's more, it's just, scheduled and orders come in. But that is something that we preach inside of our building, is you work at the speed of now. And I think that is that's how people win, especially in startup world. Like, the only way you're going to win is speed. You can mess up a million times, but if you're just pushing out content, if you're just battling through all the adversity, if you're just being able to problem solve and being able to do the work now, that gets you through a lot. So to me, that is a major part of why we were successful, especially in that world. Like, we were animals. And in order to keep up with the people we were dealing with, which were animals themselves, believe me, no one can keep up with the Logan Pauls, the Mr. Beasts of the world. They're not just geniuses. They are working at a speed that it's very hard to keep up. So in order for you to win, you have to be at the speed of now. So to me, that has been a big thing.
Yeah, I think speed of now is a great analogy. Like I said, I've worked in private equity for 8 years, so I get it, right? They don't care. They don't care about you. They care about the product, the company. Go
profits.
Yeah, that's
it.
That's all they care about. So it's kind of the same, ideology. But I've always been told from a good mentor, you can have it cheap, you can have it fast, and you can have it good, but you can't have all three. You need two, though. You have to have two. So you guys in that stance, I don't know if it was the quality or the price, but you had the speed, right?
We had the speed.
And that's enough a lot of times to get you over the hump, right? Let's just act like, we're watching the Reds right now. There's the Nick Castellanos thing where, basically George or Tom Brenneman basically,
deep drive, Bill, Nick Castellanos.
Every Reds fan, you guys would have had a shirt out in 2 hours later.
100%.
And they would have sold 20,000 before the game's done. Now you wait till tomorrow, when people wake up and they get back to the office, and now, somebody's already beat us to it. It's like big. It's like big stream media.
And honestly, that was Lamp Apparel. Like, that's how we became, before the influencers. We were at the speed of now, where something would happen, and we were creating stuff within the hour, and we became that company where if something happened in sports, especially if it was around Ohio, the expectation was what is Lamp Apparel going to come out with? They were waiting on it. So if something happened, I would see tweets, I would see Instagrams, I would see Facebook, all these things happen, and say, I wonder what Lamp Apparel is. So we built a brand, technically, before we even got to the influencers, that was speed. I wonder what they're going to come out with. And they were waiting on it. And guess what? We delivered. And when we delivered, we were first to concept. And then we were able to just launch it. And then that's how we became better than everyone else at the time. Was our speed. Even though it might not have been the greatest design because we were moving so fast, we were first. And that, to me, got us over the hump in a lot of ways, where we were working at hours that most people weren't working.
Did you ever, so I think of social media now, you talk of speed and getting people tweeting you and everything else like that. Did you ever get any good ideas from your followers? Like, I see just Instagram videos sometimes. I'll send Mitch, I'm like, dude, we got to do this. This is a great idea. Did you ever get any good ideas from like your followers, or was it really just your design team and your brains in the operation?
I would say, how about this? I think we had great brains. So we were very quick to see something and immediately flip it into a sellable product. Would I look at the tweets or the Instagrams or the posts? Absolutely. You would get inspiration from everybody. Not saying I would just poach that thing from them, but I would definitely look at everything and see what people were talking about and what they were interested in. Maybe they had a different point of view. But I will say, though, is the reason why we were becoming that brand that was going viral with Lamp Apparel was we just had quick minds. Like, there was a group of us. It was Pickle. It was me. It was Joe. It was even just close friends of ours, Ed, Party, all of them. We would just get texts from people being like, bro, did you see that? I'd be like, where? He's like, look. And we would go find it. And immediately, we just had that knack to immediately see something, flip it into a witty idea. Like, immediately, that was a witty idea, and we could give it to Joe, which then Joe was the master, where I would just say, I'll give him the most vague things. Literally, I'll be like, Joe, here's the concept. And my favorite line was, just make it dope.
And
that's it. And he'd be like, what does that mean? I'm like, Joe, I trust you. That's one thing I do. I trust you. Just make it. And I wouldn't critique it. I wouldn't now, would I have a little adjustment sometimes? Yeah. But for the most part, Joe was batting 800 on just first hit, bang, like that's a banger. That's a banger, done. And we were first out, and that won. So yes, did we take ideas? Of course. Would we listen to the audience? Of course. But I will say our internal team was very witty, was very quick, and we trusted the designers. So like Joe, you could trust him, and he would just make the banger, and then you would be like, run with it. And a lot of times, being first to the scene is the most important thing. So if you critique it too much and you wait too long and you have too many things going on that is just slowing that process down, that could hurt it. Not saying you don't want the quality, and that doesn't mean you don't want to just, tweak some things. Of course, you always have something better you could do, but getting to be first is a big win, especially in the world that we were in.
Well, one of the things I want to add is that's why the podcast exists. Like, if you guys are breaking the fourth wall real quick, we are one of the only or earliest podcasts. There's probably a few, but the way we're doing it's a little different. I think people can feel it. We're first to market as far as the way we're doing it, the video, the YouTube concept, the way that we do skits and reels and everything we do. So, part of the thing that I'm trying to connect with listeners here is like, imagine me doing all this in Columbus, right? And then coming back to Mercer County, you can't wipe it off. You can't wash that off. Like, everything we went through, speed to market, everything is slow here. Yeah. Like, I feel like Two Dads is doing so well because we're not afraid to push it like we did in the Lamp Apparel days. Where speed to market's very quick, right? We have good designers that we trust, right? And with you and me, we're witty. Me and Bill are always thinking of new ideas to do that. Yeah. So that's cool. And one of the things I want to say to Mercer County and Salina specifically is that sub shack that you see out on the Boardwalk Marketplace. We went there today. That tiki hut called the Coconut Hut out there, and some of the things that you will see in the shipyard if you go inside is Joe. Joe has worked with me since. We have never left each other. We sort of trauma bonded for life, right? Like, whatever, it's a great time. And Brandon would say to me in the videos, make it dope. Like, it's very vague, but we became better. And we learned to take feedback from our clients and be able to do it well. So something really cool is the same designer that did Maverick, did Mr. Beast, did Travis Kelce, did Ninja, everybody that was the top 1%.
I think we did about 90 to 100 influencers that you would know.
Noah Beck, Josh Richards, Bryce Hall, Party Animal Leader, all that, right? Still Softish. Like, we did a ton, okay?
Bill Ray, yeah.
Bill Ray, and Two Dads, right? Yeah. But that same designer has impacted Salina as well. The Coconut Hut, the Sub Shack, and the Shipyard.
But you have a relationship with Joe, and Joe knows how to work with you, and you know how to work with Joe.
He don't want to work with anybody else.
Joe is very comfortable with you.
Super comfortable.
And he's probably tired of me because I was demanding, but I wasn't pushy, but I was just like, let's go, Joe. So I'm sure you've been able to massage that relationship because of how demanding some of these designs need to be. Your clients are very demanding.
We just bond. I mean, we go through the same thing, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you come to me and I come to you, it sort of gives us the break room thing. We've had plenty of break room moments like, fucking Brandon, this piece of shit. Like, of course. He doesn't like that, and Logan doesn't even know what he freaking wants, and he hates this video I spent 4 days on, and he freaking won't even use it, which has happened countless times.
So many times.
It's terrible. Like I said, one of the things that you said that really, really struck me that I don't think about often enough is like, I don't think people, they hear the story. Like, oh, one of the Two Dads guys worked with Mr. Beast and Logan Paul, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You have to be a psychopath to work with them. This is not like, they don't just stroll in like you're just like, oh, well, I own a t-shirt store here, or I do this, or I did this, and I can make some videos every once in a while. I'm a pretty good editor. It's insane. I think your perspective is quite on point with like all hours of the night, but that doesn't mean it's approved.
No.
I mean, dude, it was.
You could do all the work for hours and get nothing.
Keep up with them. They don't get to #1 on YouTube, which is basically the new television for no reason. You know what I mean? So it's a crazy concept that I don't think I'll ever be able to wash off right here. One of the things I wanted to ask you too, as we jump into it, we talk about Logan Paul. Right, we keep talking about Maverick. That was the first brand.
Yeah, it was the first one. Literally the first one outside of Lamp Apparel.
So talk to me about, we've teased that you did 90 influencers there. How do you land the next? Like, what are the other influencers looking for, and who and how did you do it? This ad break is sponsored by the American Cornhole Association, because not all boards are created equal, and neither are dads. Look, this 4th of July, ditch the flimsy garage sale boards and step up to the ACA Star boards, built right here in the USA. That's right. American made, like apple pie, bald eagles, and that one uncle who grills in cargo shorts year round. Whether you're chucking bags between burgers or going full tournament mode in the driveway, ACA's got you covered. Patriotic designs, check. Regulation size, you bet. Pro level bags like the next gen NXT series or the dual sided Synergy line, oh yeah. So this year, toss with pride and maybe let the kids win one game, or don't. I don't care. Visit playcornhole.org, where champions and dads are made, and use code 2DADS at checkout for up to 15% off. It's the American Cornhole Association. American made, dad approved.
Once you get to that level where a Logan Paul is the #1 guy, it's just a snowball effect. You can just, show other people what you can do for the #1 guy, and then they want to follow. So one of the ones was Mr. Beast. And the cool thing about Mr. Beast was Pickle came to me and said, hey, there's this up-and-comer that is very quirky. He's very unique. He's got, at the time, I don't know, maybe 1 million followers at the time. And he was just doing things that people weren't doing. He was literally saying Logan Paul 100,000 times or whatever the weird things he was doing. And I remember him just coming to me and I said, I don't know. I don't get it. The content was different. Because Logan Paul was like, here's my G-Wagon, this, that. And then Mr. Beast was sitting in his room counting or saying Logan Paul's name 100,000 times. And I remember Pickle said, dude, you have to take the risk. I'm like, I trust you, done. Let's do it. So, a guy like Mr. Beast, we contacted him and said, hey, we want to build your merchandise. And at the time, he loved Logan Paul. He was just like, dude, I want to be bigger than Logan Paul. He was just that guy. He's like, I'm going to be bigger than Logan Paul one day. Even though it might not look like it, I'm going to be that. And Pickle was like, dude, this dude is that next guy. I'm like, done, let's do it. So I remember him flying in. He had no manager at the time. And then the day before he flew in, he was starting to talk to one of his guys. I think it was his new manager, Reed, or whatever. They didn't even sign yet. And he flew out. We were sitting at Bolden's office. We were coming up with concepts. We were coming up with designs. Joe was there. And so we just created that design. I remember Joe sketching it. I still have the sketch. And that was the beginning of the Mr. Beast. And so it was just a snowball effect of being able to create Logan Paul's merchandise that set a precedent that was the #1 in the world, and then being able to just snowball that into the next thing. So we were able to then do Mr. Beast, the Ninjas, the Travis Kelce's, all these TikTokers. And they just wanted, I can't say it enough. Logan Paul set it up where you couldn't be better than Logan Paul when it came to plug-in. And so everyone wanted to be like Logan, and we were the guys that could create that. So a lot of guys did it. Some of them were great. Some of them were hard to work with. Some of them were very, and they wanted to be Logan Paul. The problem was they couldn't be Logan Paul because Logan Paul had no conscience when it came to his brand. He loved Maverick. That was truly his baby. So he would talk about it every day. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to plug. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, all right, cool. Then you're not going to sell as much. And that's just reality. But that was how we were able to get into the door with everyone else as we created the #1 brand with Maverick. And then it snowballed. And then Mr. Beast became that guy. And it took almost a year for us to even get him warmed up to how to do it. And then he became that thing. And then his merch became a big deal. And then all the other ones just kind of followed suit. So
it was definitely a blueprint. You know what I mean? Like
it was a blueprint. And honestly, I will say this: no one could compete with Logan Paul. Though.
No, he was. I don't.
He was
care.
a freak.
If you don't,
and it was timing, and there's a lot of things that go on with that. But
he was perfect.
He was perfect.
He was the best person I've ever worked with, whether you like him or not.
And he was
I'm better
very
for working
respectful. I mean, he was demanding. Logan Paul demanded perfection, but he produced. Meaning, if he said he wanted to do something, he did it, and you didn't have to like beg him or trick him into doing the things. He was like, no, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm going to be that guy. I want my brand to be number one in the world. And guess what? He did it.
Yeah,
and we were there.
One of the things I want to say about Mr. Beast, because I do take some credit for discovering him before he blew up. I will say, I found Beast as far as seeing his true potential probably the earliest before anybody, before he even had a manager.
You believed in Mr. Beast before anybody else, but you were kind of like Mr. Beast. You guys were
100%.
Little quirky, little nerdy.
100%.
The content I didn't quite get at the time. Now, the Mr. Beast you see now is different than what he was back then. And Pickle was just like, dude, this is the guy. Like, you're going to catch him now. This is it. And I'm like, okay, I kind of don't get it. I see potential, but I don't. To me, I'm like, you have to understand, I was living the Logan Paul life. It was glitz and glamour and G-Wagons and mansions and all these things. And then I saw Mr. Beast doing things that no one was doing, but it was just weird. And Pickle's like, that's my guy. Like, and I'm like, Pickle, I don't see it. He's like, trust. And
I
said,
study
you know
the
what?
analytics every day.
And I said, Pickle, I trust you more than anybody. If you believe this is the guy, I will 100% be on board. And he's like, you're doing it. I'm like, all right, done.
Yeah, it was crazy to see that because he wasn't selling early often. He didn't have a direction. It was sort of the first brand. Brandon's busy with Maverick, and he's like, you go handle Mr. Beast. I basically got my first shot at running a brand.
He was managing Mr. Beast.
Yeah, I managed the whole brand from start to finish. I had run some smaller brands, but to run that one was largely unsuccessful in the beginning. He just wanted meme shirts. It didn't really have a connection, but that we honed it in. Like I said, Joe had that beautiful design that you see.
Yeah, but you also built a great relationship with him where you were talking to him different. I was talking to him very businesslike, and you took the role of, hey, whatever you want to do, we'll do. I'll talk to Brandon about it. You were the middleman. You were almost like the manager, where you were able to bridge that gap where I was very driven on, profits and sales. And, I had payroll. I was thinking about other things. And Pickle was more in the weeds of the authenticity of these people. He was more connected to them, not on a business level, but on a personal level. He would, check on them. He would check on their girl, hey, they had a girlfriend. How's your girlfriend? Hey, your mom. Like all these things, Pickle filled that gap. And where I was very business-like with him because I had to. I had a company. I had people that I was responsible for. I had payroll. I had things that needed to work. So I was very focused on the business side, and Pickle was very focused on the personal side. And that's really what was a winning concept for us, where Pickle could be the guy that could touch them and just keep up with them. And I was just basically I was dealing with them, the managers and the lawyers. And it was a different relationship. And Pickle took the other relationship, which I think allowed these people to breathe, because he would be like, Brandon, they're not going to sell today. They're not going to sell next week. They're not going to sell in a month. But if you give them 6 months, 12 months, they're going to produce because they're going to get it. You got to give them that time. And I'm like, great, let's do it, because I trusted you, and that was very important. And you took that role, and you ran with it, and you killed it, and you built great relationships, and that was a winning recipe. So, I'm thankful for you for that. And we needed that, because sometimes it gets so cutthroat in business.
It's terrible.
Where all anyone cares about is profit. And I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but when you have a lot of responsibility on you, you have to do that. You lean that way. And then also their managers and their lawyers and everyone on their teams, they start to grow. Beast became a guy where it was just Beast we were dealing with for the first 6 months. But then it became layers and layers and layers, and Pickle was able to fill those gaps that maybe I couldn't do, and that was a winning recipe.
One of the funny stories that people don't know is I got to go on Mr. Beast's 21st birthday party. There's two good stories that came out of this. Okay, the first one is this. I'm a big advocate for Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. And,
Me too.
Yeah, and we talk about balancing the truck on the Bitcoin budget. We'll probably jump into that in next week's episode. Cool. I'm sitting at a Nobu, and I'm Mercer County Fed. Like I don't know nothing about this. Like I'm a fun, creative guy. I went to Ohio State, blah blah blah. But I'm still my goofy self that it was the same as a basement here in Salina or Marie Stein, right? Anyway. He looks at me and he goes, "How much Bitcoin do you have?" I said, "I don't know, probably like $6,000 or $7,000, just in my like little store. I've been saving that up for like paycheck. Yeah, like, and Bitcoin was still super risky back then, right? Anyway, he goes, "Give it to me," and I was like, "Fuck, I don't. All right, well, you're Mr. Beast. You're probably good for it, okay?" Anyway, he sits at this Nobu for his birthday, just to give you perspective of kind of the guy he is. This was his birthday. Doesn't talk to anybody. We're all at this fancy steakhouse, manager, all his friends, all the people in the paparazzi, his posse, private table. We're eating steak and blah, blah, blah. He doesn't talk to me. Doesn't talk to me. He's just playing this game on his phone where he holds his finger on this like little, they call it like Bitcoin fall. And then if it crashes and your finger's still on it, you lose all your Bitcoin. So he just sits there silently. He's just playing all night. Anyway, he comes back and he goes, what's your receiving address? And I was like, I don't know. Anyway, he gave me about $40,000 worth that he had won at the table and gave that to me. Yeah, it's insane. And then proceeds to text me afterwards. Everyone goes to bed. It's 2 a.m. Again, these guys work on weird hours. And Brandon and I are built. This is why, because weird hours, they know they can text us.
Yeah.
We are always on. I didn't care. I'll fire my brain. You know how much energy I have, Bill. I can turn it on. And I pretty much never turn it off, right? So he texts me at 2:30 in the morning. He says, "So let's go to the high stakes tables." I said, "You want to play some roulette?" I'm down 300 on the weekend. 300. I just flew in. I'm losing money. It sucks. We're in Vegas for his birthday. I can't win. He goes, "Let's go to the tables." He wires $90,000 to the table. Proceeds to go up 180. And I said, "We got to pull. Let's pull. Let's go. We got to get out of here." He goes, "Do you see $1 million here?" Same thing he said to Brandon. "I want to be better than Logan Paul. Do you see $1 million here?" I said, "No." And just like with Logan Paul, just kidding. He lost $180,000 at the table.
No, I actually have a story that's very similar to you when it comes to Mr. Beast. Me and you were at his house. I remember sitting there, and he would always claim that he had no money. And he was always in the red, and he couldn't pay payroll and all this stuff. And he was always tripping about it. And you're like, "Dude, you're just killing it." He's like, "Yeah, but I spent all my money on my videos. So I'm always at the end of the week or end of the month, I'm in the red." I remember sitting there with him, and he's like, "Dude, I'm short 25 grand for his boys." And the crazy part was, he was like, "All right, I'm just going to figure out how to make 25 grand real quick." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" He jumps on his phone, does one of those games. Hour later, doesn't say a word. Not a word. Hour later, he's like, "All right, cool, I'm good on payroll." And he shows me, and he made like 27 grand in an hour playing some overseas game. I don't know what it was, but that's when I knew he was a freak.
He
was a genius, where he would just be like, "How do you create 25 grand out of thin air when you have nothing?" Well, he had something, but it was just that was the mentality that he had, where you were just, when you looked at him, you're like, "Dude, that's just only geniuses could do that."
It's the same thing I talk to brands around here. We always say trade ROI for the give the food away, give the chicken sandwiches away. We say it all the time. That comes from there, because he looked at me and he said, at his house, he said, "How do I?" This is the back in the Invest in Beast, and where this whole give everything away, this whole give everything away strategy. He was kind of doing it already,
but we took it to the next. But
we took it to the next level for him. And so we were on this whiteboard, and he goes, "How do I make more money than Logan Paul?" And I said, "Well, Logan Paul right now currently is buying Challengers and skinning them and G-Wagons and showing his house and thanking his people that are Mavericks and stuff." But I said, that gimmick's going to get old soon. They're going to say, "Well, wait a second. I'm giving you money and you're buying things and showing me those things." Like, they're going to wake up. It's going to sort of get off autopilot. Anyway, I said to Beast, "Why don't you just give more of your money away?"
Yeah, and he was already investing everything into his videos. So we just took it to the next level. I remember sitting at that whiteboard, and we were like, "Invest in Beast." So anything they invested in, he would give back. And that became who he is today. I'm not saying we created it. He was already semi-doing it, but we solidified it.
In a way.
We solidified the Invest in Beast slogan.
It's no different than just looking at a mentor like David Hirsch and saying, like, "How do I get to that next..." Like, you believe that you could get to $100,000 worth of inventory, but at the same time, sometimes it's nice to have somebody with the reaffirmation. Yeah. One of the questions I have for you, and we'll toss this back to Bill too here in a second. let's say you're running our launch, okay? You've done all these merch. These are great stories. You know, I wish we'll probably have an episode 2 in the future just to have Brandon back. He loves Salina and definitely will come back and
I love
visit.
Salina.
But let's say you're running our launch. You know, Bill, I want you to talk about this hat real quick.
Yeah.
We've got something coming up. Go ahead and tease it, and then I'll ask Brandon the question. What do you have in mind? You talked about merch at the beginning of the episode. We have a special announcement. I'll let you make the announcement, and then we'll go into Brandon with some of his advice.
So we finalized kind of a design. It was kind of like a hip thing with Rob and I, like one of our buddies that works on the food truck. And we're like, dude, we need a hat. Like, it's just an easy thing to create. There's no sizes with it, right? No smalls, no extra larges.
Great.
It's just a snapback hat. So it's like we create a hat. What do we like? We love the exact hat you're wearing, the upside down logo. Yeah. And even like we told Rich about it, he's like, why is it upside down? Like, I don't know, dude. It's just kind of a fad. I think it's cool. Like, it's a cool hat. Like, I want that hat, and I want it to say Two Dads. So I just reach out to our designer at Albert Sporting Goods, and I'm just like, I need this hat with Two Dads upside down, create it, make it look good. It literally looks about the same exact as his hat. It's like a cream color with a red bill, and it says Two Dads upside down. So the whole idea behind it is like my idea, and you can critique it for sure, right? I'm going to learn. And I was like, all right, Zach, you go get me 2 of those. Zach, free shout out. You know, we've been doing it for a while.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you. You give me 2 samples. Mitch and I start wearing this around. We tease it a little bit. Then we say, all right, there's a limited drop. It's X amount of hats, and we haven't finalized how many, right? We're going to wear them for a week or 2, and then we're going to say, hey, you know, Sunday at 1 o'clock, the store's opening. The first, let's just say it's 50 hats. They get sold, they're done. They're never going to be made again. There's 50 hats. You want them? Great. If not, then, you know, it is what it is. Like, that's kind of the idea. And we have the design. It looks cool. It's going to be a great hat. Thoughts on that? What would you do? How would you attack that?
I think it's a horrible idea. No, I'm joking.
I was like, oh, shit.
Here we go again.
No.
Here we go again.
I think it's a great idea. One is I am wearing a hat similar, I guess, to what you're creating. So I'm on the same vibe as you.
Right.
So my wife 2 days ago asked me, why are you wearing a hat that's upside down and backwards? I was like, honey, this is not for you. She's like, I don't get it. I'm like, exactly, it's not for you. So she let it go. But what I would say is when you guys are creating that demand where it's very limited and it's going to be a signature hat that you remember, I think it's a great idea because what people want is something they can't have. So when you get something for a limited amount of time, this is part of our philosophy that we created with a lot of our influencers, is when you drop that first piece of merchandise, that's the one that they're going to remember the most. It for whatever reason it is, that first drop is ground zero. And if you have that at a limited amount, that creates the demand. So if you just keep selling something and it just sells forever, eventually it just fizzles out. So I think the thing that you guys are creating is great because, one, I think it is a trendy thing. I think it makes you think about it. You got to look at it. You got to see it. You got to kind of decipher what that means because it's backwards and it's upside down. But it's limited. And to me, I think that is a great concept. So your first launch of a hat is smart because, one, you don't have to deal with a lot of inventory. There's no like small, medium, extra smalls, double X, 3X, whatever you guys are, on the t-shirt game. But to me, that is a great idea. And to me, that would be your signature. So 10 years from now, if you guys are still doing the podcast, someone's going to rock that hat and that's going to be like forever the original. And to me, if you keep the original as a super limited piece, I think that's very smart. And it's this concept. So at the time it is trendy, but that will be something that will live on forever. And it's just a great way to introduce your brand when it comes to the merchandise. And that's what we did with a lot of our influencers is you got to have that first banger and don't have it out there forever. Like it's just supply and demand. People want things they can't have. If it's limited, they want it. And then when you just shut it off, those people who didn't get that are going to buy that next one because they missed out.
Right.
So, there's a lot of psychology to that. And I think that's just what sales are in general. So I think it's smart. I think it's great. I love this hat. It's new. It's the new vibe. But I think you guys are going to capitalize on that. And I think that's a very smart idea.
We do the same thing with chicken sandwiches. The sellout strategy is sort of like,
great.
We don't like holding inventory. And Bill's gotten us, I told Brandon today when we were swimming in Huffy's Pond, I was talking all about you. I said, we said, guys like Bill make the world go round. Like we're vision
I need
guys.
Bill.
I need Bill too.
bills.
Yeah, we need many builds because they make the lights stay on. Otherwise, we're just talking about the next best light bulb. You see what I'm saying?
I got great ideas. I just need people that can execute.
What would you say about right now? We're working off Albert's Sporting Goods, like just a host site right now because we're just trying to get our ducks in a row with having a merch site, testing it out, and seeing how it goes. What do you recommend? Shopify versus Printful versus custom setup versus stay on Albert's as long as we can until it hurts? Like, what do you see right now? And I guess maybe multitude.
I would say get a
options.
Shopify store. Printful is a great app that's connected to Shopify, so I think that's a great idea of where you can create merchandise without having to hold too much inventory. I would be in the mindset of owning everything that you guys do. So Shopify allows you to do that. So you can own the domain, you can own the merchandise, you can own the website. So to me, building, kind of like your audience. Your audience right now is on the digital platforms. You guys are on YouTube, you guys are on Instagram and Facebook, all those great things. The next step is you got to own that domain. So Shopify to me is the easiest domain or the easiest platform to sell on. Printful is a great app that can be connected to Shopify that allows you to do your merchandise, but you want to own everything that you touch. To me, you can lean on other things to start and build it, but eventually you want to be able to own it, which to me, you can have that Shopify domain. You can add Printful to allow you to be creative without having to have too much inventory. You can do some more print on demand. So those are things that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, I'd love to keep it local somehow. Like, Bill and I have had conversations about this. Like, could we keep Albert's on just to help the back end if they can plug into our website? Like, I'm open to I want to stay as local as possible. Like, that's kind of the identity of the truck. It's feed local, support local. Yeah. Go to local events, go to Country Fest and whatever we did this weekend. But that's
so. Hold on, let me ask you a question. What is Albertsons? Because I'm not familiar with it.
So Albert Sporting Goods is a local sporting goods store. I've worked sales there for 5 or 6 years, so I just have kind of an inside connection with Zach. Okay. So I've kind of been in the merch game a little bit, not to that level, right? But I just know I understand screen printing, embroidery, all that stuff. Yeah.
So they have a website and everything.
So it's kind of like a third party host. So it's not albertsportinggood.com. It's called Order My Gear. So basically, but we can put our logos on it up front. It says Two Dads, stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well then I would leverage because you guys are local, so leveraging local businesses is a great thing, and I think that is a smart idea. But also owning your domain and everything once you become at a certain level is great, and then you could collab. It's the same thing we did at Lamp Apparel. You can own the domain, but then collab with everybody. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it at all. I just think leveraging local companies that are doing big things, unbelievable.
My brain is going bonkers right now. I just thought of the collaboration because there's a lot of people around town that I would love to collaborate with a local, like Hot and Healthy-ish, right? That's Lauren Perrin over there at Caddy's, and I texted her the other day. I said, how do I sponsor you? You're a local influencer. You don't have to be the Logan Paul, but you're local in here doing content every day and influencing the ladies around town. I think it's awesome. How do I support you? And she's kind of like, I don't know. What do you have in mind? And I was like, well, I want to give you money and then you influence and then we can have some fun collaborations and stuff. But I've been having this conversation more and more with some athletes around town that have approached me that said like, hey, I got an NIL contract. Like, would you interest? I mean, hell yeah, we would. Like, I don't know how we'll do it, but to make it worthwhile, these collaborations seem really like a layup, right? Hot and Healthy-ish times Two Dads Tea, where it's just, come up with that same Lamp Apparel concept where it's like, ladies love fried chicken too. Like I love a hot dad. You know what I mean? Like those things right there to me is a great collaboration tee that I don't have to put all of the weight of inventory or all the weight of having this as a tee always available. And it makes sense at the same time to have these limited runs with these influencers that are just, hey, this is our monthly collaboration. Today it's Hot and Healthy-ish. Next week it's Casa Rodriguez, and the week after that it's
Well,
Little
how about
Caesars.
this? I think you guys are in a very unique situation where you guys can make a very big impact in this community. A lot of people are coming from New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, or even Columbus, where you're just a small fish in a big pond. Like you guys are a big fish in a small pond, even though that lake is beautiful and it's big and it's great. But I think you guys are in a very unique situation where you guys can make a big impact by bringing some of these big level concepts, big city concepts to a smaller town and highlighting other people. it's not about you guys. You guys are already getting there. You guys are creating a brand that's amazing. You guys are doing big things personally outside of what you're doing together. But where I think you guys are going to kill it is by giving a platform and allowing other people to grow and be big in a small town, because you guys are collabing with them and you're giving them insight. You're giving them a platform. You're giving them podcast time. You guys are collabing with them on your food truck. You guys are in a very unique situation where the most important thing for you guys isn't just about how good that you guys are doing individually. It's about how much room you can give to other people and give them a voice. And all you're doing is setting them up, because you guys do have the voice, and now you allow them to layer on top of you, and then now you're shining them the light. And to me, that is bigger than anything that you guys could do. And that's the power. The power is within giving other people an opportunity. It's not about you guys winning. You guys are going to win regardless. You're winning regardless as a person, as a business guy. Same thing for you, Pickle. You guys are winning. How do you make other people win? And then everyone wins together, and then that becomes the magic. And I think you guys are in a great opportunity to do that here. And you guys are the big fish in a small pond, and it's great.
And I can't wait to see what comes next. But that music right now means it's time for our game show. Bill, I designed this thing so you could play too.
Let's go. I don't get to play every week.
So every week, Brandon, we have a game show. Okay, this game show, I take time to think about my people coming on the podcast. I spend time with them. This one is unique because you're into sports and Bill's into sports. One fun fact is that Brandon is extremely good
at random college basketball players.
At random college
Older college
basketball
I am
players.
Not on the new gen.
And where they went to school. So this game will be Guess the College. This will be Guess the College, Bill versus Brandon. I won't be able to keep score efficiently, but I'm going to name 10
This will be fun.
college player or NBA players right now. You will tell me what college they went to. Pretty simple.
Is this who can answer it first, or you just give an individual?
I will give it. Who can answer it first? You get the point. You can talk amongst each other. That seems fair,
That's
right?
fair.
Like,
Yeah.
As a good host, I want to make sure.
Are
that's
these
fair.
current players?
These are current players in the NBA.
That gives
but
me a
they're
little
not.
bit more.
they're
That gives
not-
you the advantage.
They're not
The
super
chance.
old. I mean, I can add. I can change it. I mean, I'm
No.
using.
No. I don't
We'll
want you to
run it.
change it.
Okay.
I want Bill to have a chance.
Okay.
Just for
Yes.
reference, we did this for our March Madness stream, and we were on Twitch, and he was just roasting me. So I gotta
Yes,
get a little
but that
revenge.
was old players.
That's fair.
New players, I'm horrible at.
Okay.
So
Let's see how you do.
Older
right now.
players, I'm great.
Let's start with a couple layups. Okay. Stephen Curry.
Davidson.
Ooh, that's a tie.
That was-
1 point
that
apiece.
was like-
1 point.
yeah.
1 point apiece. You guys
Half
ready?
each.
You guys ready? Kevin Durant.
Texas.
He should have went to Maryland, actually.
He should have.
He
He's a
should have went to.
DMV.
Yeah, he's
DMV.
from Baltimore.
All right, you
DMV
guys.
guy.
I don't need you kissing and stuff.
Unbelievable DMV player. Texas.
Okay. Brandon, 1 point. So 2 points. We're going to call the tie no points.
Yeah, that's
1
fine.
point for
Whatever.
Brandon. You guys ready?
Okay.
LeBron James.
No,
High
nowhere.
school.
Nope, that's Bill. Right, Bill got that one. He
Okay.
said none. I'm going to give it 1 to
great.
1 right now. You guys
Done.
ready? Jason Tatum.
Dude.
Dude,
Nice, Bill. There's 2 to 1, Bill. You guys
I
are-
like Bill right
I
now.
do. too.
Bill
He's
Lane
good.
Bear. That's his new name.
There we go. Here we go. Anthony Davis.
Kentucky.
That's 2 to 2. That's Kentucky for Anthony Davis. You guys are correct. Ready to go? Kawhi Leonard.
San Diego State.
Oh,
That's correct.
I knew that one too. Damn.
I know.
3 to 2, Brandon.
The problem is the mouth doesn't move as fast as the brain.
He's got a little bit of tequila. All right, here we go. Ready? Devin Booker.
Kentucky.
Yes.
That's 3 to 3. Well done. There we go. Number 8, Jimmy Butler.
Marquette.
That's correct. That's 4 to 3, Brandon.
I didn't know that one,
2
so-
left, Bill. 2 left.
gotta
I'll get a
get the next 2
tiebreaker.
for the win.
Here we go. Brandon takes a sip. The windup and the pitch. Damian Lillard.
Weber State.
Weber
That's
State, yeah.
All right, and the last one for fun because Brandon's going to take it. John Morant.
Murray State.
That's
Murray State.
correct.
Go
Look
Racers.
At him. Look at him go. Brandon, thank you for coming on for the merch episode. This was really fun. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
Bill, thank you as always for being here. Slick Willie to my left. Anything to say before we go?
No, hey, how are you? Brandon, thanks for coming, and looking forward to the next episode.
Thank you guys for watching or listening. This is the Two Dads Podcast, episode number 21. We'll see you next week. Brandon, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you.